Did you catch what happened in the intro there? If not, here it is once more. I was shooting, having a blast, running a dot, because y'all want me to run dots. And I like dots. I understand the advantages of them. They can make... They can help someone shoot at a proficiency beyond their current proficiency by eliminating the need to level two visual planes with one in focus, one out of focus on a target that's out of focus. With the dot, you look right through. If you see the dot on the target and you keep the gun steady, press the trigger, that's where your hit goes. I've already documented, in fact, check the pinned comment to see the article. I've had 6, I believe, once in a lifetime, as the dots or die crowd says, once in a lifetime failures. So far, this was number 7. And the interesting thing here is I don't know how or why. The gun used was Bull Armory EDC, and you'll see on top, get some light on it, there's a boss right there. There's a peg or node that pokes up through the center hole of this plate. When the optic plate goes on there, that center piece takes all of the shear stress out of the screws. And that's one of the biggest failures in optics mounting, is screws are meant for clamping. They're also meant to have been stretched once. That's right, screws and bolts, this is why there are torque specs, stretch a little when they're tightened down the first time. They don't always return to that. That's why when you're rebuilding an engine or something, you use new hardware. Reusing hardware is a bad idea. But typically, with the screws trying to clamp, they're also exposed to shear forces. Those shear forces happen with the slide moving back and forth. When it comes to that abrupt stop at the end and abrupt stop forward, that's applying shear force as the optic wants to continue moving in that direction. So this plate system from Bull Armory eliminates that. These screws were doing nothing but clamping. They were also Loctited. I don't know if it's going to come through on camera, but there's a little spot of blue on there. I definitely Loctited these and tightened them out down well. It just came off. I'm not blaming, I think if anything, it's probably the inexpensive hardware that gets tossed in with these dots. Maybe these screws were slightly out of spec in their total size. I don't know, but I'm not blaming any of that. The reason I'm bringing up this video is, here's that footage once again, and I want you to tell me where I paused or panicked or had to stop shooting. I didn't, right? That's because I'm proficient with irons, and with the low mounting height and having slightly taller sights that are on the Bull Armory EDC, I was able to remain on my sights. And because I had a true co-witness, not a lower third or lower 1/12 or any of the weird things that people like to argue about what's better, because I had a true co-witness with my eye locked onto where that dot was, when the dot flew off, my eye was already in line with the sights and I was able to keep going. And this brings me to something I'd like you to ponder about. So if you're well trained with your irons and you have that exact kind of setup where you can, your dot and your sights are one and the same, it's probably easiest for you. But were it to be something where I was completely dependent on the dot, either from shooting skill or sight situation, or if I had a crazy off-witness thing, in a defensive shooting scenario, that might have added some mental stress, that might have caused a pause, that might have interrupted the shooting or caused an errant shot. And while I do firmly believe that dots are excellent for competition and for range use, possibly home defense use, but here's another one of the thoughts is, at defensive distances, are you even, like, how much of the dot are you really using? So I guess what I want you guys to think about is, if you're going to carry a gun with a dot on it, which is not something I personally recommend, make sure that you are proficient with those irons and that you can have a dot failure and continue shooting. It worked for me in this scenario. What I was demonstrating was at a simulator, so there was no risk. And while I carry the Bull Armory SAS2 TAC 4 1/4, which was basically the predecessor to the EDC, you notice that my carry version does not have a dot on it. I just run the sights. I had dotted this because I'm fortunate enough to have two nearly identical pistols, and so I could experience it with and without a dot. And I took this with me to go train. Think about it, please. I agree that dots are great. I think there are many reasons why dots should remain competition range toy and not be an EDC thing. I know they're all the rage right now. I'm sure there are many furious keyboard warriors typing away feverishly. But check the pin comment, check my list of quote-unquote once-in-a-lifetime failure experiences that I've had with dots, and please contemplate on them before you consider a dot on your actual carry gun. That's what I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.